All right. So we're rabbit holing again today, and I'm excited about it. We're going to talk about some Reiki. And Kathy will be all excited about this. I finally got a chance to listen to that podcast, A Psychic Story, on the way here today. And I was like, oh
Yeah,
gosh, this is so
yay!
good.
It really resonated
Yeah, did
when
it.
she was talking about telepathy. I was like, oh, I loved how she described it.
Yeah, it was so good. And I was like, I actually remember those tests. Very slightly, but I do remember them, and I remember the little cards that they would put out, and it wasn't just it was like a X, a triangle, a square, and the squiggly lines. And those are actually people still use those for readings. hmm That little card thing that they do. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, I remember this.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's
What
good.
was the name of that?
It's on a psychic story that is there's a link in the group. I'll tag you in it because it's good. It's real good.
Okay.
Yeah, she's great. I love all of her stuff. You can probably go on like a whole binge.
You for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, as I was coming here, I was thinking about it and I was like, because Reiki is all frequency work too. So like those tests and stuff like that kind of tie into this because I remember being a kid and doing those tests and them telling me that I too had like super, super good hearing. And I actually, when I was in high school, this was years later, so I know it's not like an immediate thing. They didn't do it in high school. They did the stuff in grade school when I was going through it. Um, they were on me about getting recruited, and I thought that was like the military, and I thought that was just normal. That's like all kids. They come into the school, whatever. So I don't know, because I was at the tail end of everything, how that actually worked. But I was like, oh, that's super interesting. And how, like, Reiki practitioners and people that are drawn to frequency work, how that would tie in when we're kids and being able to see and hear and all the things that go along with that. Yeah. And another thought that had popped into my head was um people that can move objects or bend spoons and stuff like that. Now, I don't know for sure this is what happened. This is my little like 5-year-old memory. I was outside with my brother, and I've never thought about it this way. I always thought it was just like some weird thing that just happened. And I had this little doll stuffy thing. It was ugly as hell, but I had to have it all the time with me. And I remember one of my brother's friends throwing it, and it got stuck in a bush. And it was in there for a while. And I remember standing there and just crying and crying and crying because I couldn't get it. And then I remember it flying back out of the bushes at me, and I caught it. And my brother was standing there, and I remember looking at him going, what just happened? My little brain was like, what the heck? And my brother's looking at me like,
What
like,
you just do?
yeah, yeah. And his friends were there too. And I was like, I asked, I said, did one of you guys like pull a branch back or something? Because that's what I was thinking is that it got stuck on a branch and then the branch flung it back out. I mean, that's the logical explanation of that. But I remember this is like such a prominent memory. Everybody standing there with this look on their face. And my brother was 10 years older than me. So he was like, him and his friends, they were all 15 at the time. So they would have been like, how did this even happen? So I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but some weird phenomenon, or if I was like summoning my baby out of the bushes.
I would think that was the answer.
It must have. I don't know if any of you guys have ever done this where like when you're a kid, you're staring at like a coffee cup on the table or something and you're just trying to move it. I was obsessed with that. I would just sit there and stare at it so hard. I remember being at my grandparents' house and they always had this cup of coffee sitting there and I could barely see over like the top of the table from the chair because I was so itty bitty, but I would just stare at it and be like, move. Of course, now if you're staring at something and it moves, I'd be like, oh my God, what just happened? I think that's why a lot of like the energetic work and all of that stuff It doesn't happen like that because when we're adults, if it did, we'd shut it down immediately because we'd be like, that didn't just happen. There's no way that could have happened. Because I know I would probably never try again. I think I have like a poltergeist in my house. But I think because we've been blocked from all of that stuff for so long, like what are humans capable of? Because I know in my Reiki stuff, I've had so many things that have happened and so many things that have come through for me, like just from being able to sense different things in the body. I seeing like actual organs and stuff going on within organs. People actually feeling energy leaving them. I mean, there's just so much stuff that can happen, and that is all frequency work. That is all energy work. And a lot of people, that's kind of why I wanted to talk about Reiki today, is a lot of people think you just lay on the table, right? And yes, there are like spas, stuff like that. People go get a weekend certification, and they have people come in, lay on the table, and you just put your hands over them and you just kind of stand there and look at the clock, right? That's not what like I do and other Reiki practitioners and people that are in this line of work that are like actually really in it. We've all come to find out that it's so much more than that. Yes, it's great for relaxation. Yes, it's great. You can have the quiet sessions, right? If that's what somebody wants. Yep, I'll keep my mouth shut. We're just going to sit and we're going to chill. We're going to relax and we'll see what happens. But my experience with it is I always, almost every time, end up talking about something that's coming through and communicating with the person because they'll see, as we're going through it, they'll see the same colors I'm seeing. They'll feel the same things that I am feeling. They'll feel the heat in their body and where I am doing work. And they have their own revelations as um everybody else. Let me see. Kim, like magic.
I'm sorry, Holly.
Aw, I need to send you some Reiki today. Yeah, hopefully you feel better. But yeah, it's so amazing. Yeah, go ahead, Marie.
I have a question. All
Hmm.
right. So I am in a very religious area. Okay. They say every other corner is a bar and the other one is a church. Okay. This place, I mean, we have a cathedral. I mean, it is, very religious. Um, I say I have the ability to heal. Okay. And I can have heat emanating from my hands.
Yeah.
And I can just like I had a roommate and she always had knee problems and I could just
Hmm.
and it didn't solve it, it didn't cure it, but boy, it kept her going for a while. I have someone else I go to who will be bent over and can't even stand up, and I can work on her and she'll stand up. Um, Now my best friend this past week had an MRI and she's very claustrophobic and she was very worried. And this is a best friend from high school who has been with me as I did my gifts. But, you know, I always thought she was closed minded. I took her into a New Age store and I just went on and on about crystals. And she says, it's a rock. Why would you pay this much money for a rock? So when she was so stressed, I said to her, would you allow me to work on you? And she shocked me and said, yes. And she said, almost immediately, she could feel the calm going over her and what a difference it made. So I don't know what to define that. I've never been trained in Reiki.
Hmm.
I've never, it's just something that has come naturally to me. Um, so it, define it if you can.
So
If that makes sense.
I think, and what I have seen through teaching people and like going through the courses and everything like that, almost every single person that has done Reiki has been able to tap into some sort of energy and be able to use that with other people. So you don't necessarily like Reiki, you get attuned, so you're opening up a channel. And so it is a little bit different, but I do feel like there are certain people that are just a channel naturally and are able to tap into just energetics in general and be able to transfer that with that intention of being able to work on somebody else. Some people are just naturally gifted. We all have our own thing. So you working with your hands, that is your thing, right? And so I think like if you were to do a Reiki certification or whatever you want to call it, I think it would only intensify, right? Because I would like me before I did Reiki, I would get kind of the same thing. And I always, I love this. I've heard it from a lot of people, like as a child, would always think, even in my teenage years in the back of my head, like I'm just going to put my hands on somebody and maybe it'll miraculously heal them. That runs through your mind. And it's actually like a thing, right? And I also do feel that a lot of people that are tapped into that energy just um, really strongly have a lot of past lives of working with healing. I feel like it intensifies like every single lifetime that you come in because you're familiar with it and you've built upon all of those things. So I think it's just like a natural energetic thing that comes to people. And for you, that would be one of your gifts and your talents that you have. You're a channel and you let it flow through you. Yeah.
The interesting thing is, I think I shared my religious journey. Leaving the church was very difficult, and I went to shamanism. I could parallel a lot with shamanism, and then I had a vision, and I was bit by a snake. And the minute I was bit by a snake, my teacher said, "You're now a healer." And it was after then
Yeah. Oh, I just got the
that
chills from head to toe.
it was after then that I had the ability. Maybe I always had it and never thought about it, but that's when I think I began.
Yeah. Yeah, because you opened it up. You have it's a lot of times it's dormant until you really like tap into it. We ignore it, you know? Yeah. And if you think about the snake, it's got so many different meanings, and it is wisdom, tapping into wisdom, tapping into like being resilient. And it's also like a shedding of the skin too, right? So it's
Mhm.
transformation, which is really amazing. And I think that having that sort of vision probably ties into all of that stuff. Yeah.
I want to say something on the snake bite thing. I'm thinking like say even now, if you get bit by a snake, if I get bit by a rattlesnake, they'll say that you kind of have that. I've heard people say that once they've experienced that, they can smell them. And also it's like they have an immunity to them because you're given that snake venom to counteract the snake venom. I mean, that's how they, so that to me, that makes sense also in the not only the mythology but the actual physical stuff. I mean, that's just a fact. So that's really interesting. Go Marie. Go to class, Marie. Go to class, Marie.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, like the representation of that is so cool, and how our visions come to us too are really, really neat because they're so symbolic of so many different things. And with Reiki and energetics, if you're somebody that can visualize real easy, a lot of times you're going to get a lot of symbolic stuff like that. And it is profound. Like there's a lot of really, really can be odd visions. I talk about it all the time, but they mean something. And so being able to trust that and
Well,
obviously communicate with somebody else too is really great to be like, hey, what do you think?
well, doesn't, and this just came to me too, like, doesn't the snake, come on, people, doesn't the snake represent, it represents that heal it, that, what is that symbol? The
The
med,
symbol for the medic
exactly. So,
around
I mean,
the
it's all,
snake around
the spinal cord and
Kundalini.
and Kundalini, and we're talking about Reiki. So
Yeah.
none of this is coincidence, everybody. It's
Mhm.
all part of it. It all
Yeah.
fits little puzzle pieces. Cool.
Yeah. And
Oh,
Kim was just talking
oh,
about the spinal flow.
oh, and then Kim just said it's the year of the snake. Oh
It
my,
is.
yeah. That's
Mhm.
cool.
Yeah. I keep getting the chills, you guys. I don't know what the heck is going on. Not the chills, but like this, it's an energetic, feels like your hair is standing up on the top of your head, but I get it like in the top half whenever we all get together and something's really resonating. I don't know if everybody's like, ooh, this is cool because I'm feeling it. It's intense. It's so awesome.
That's interesting because I've sent something to you to see if you felt it or not.
Did you really?
I did because I really don't have the confidence, it's just an odd thing. But I thought I'm going to send this to her and see if she picks up anything. I was going to tell you I was going to send it, but you picked up on it before I said anything.
Oh, that's so cool. See, that's a really amazing thing about energetic work. You can send it and people don't know, but they're still tuning into that. So, and then being able to verify it after. I mean, I've done like Reiki work where with another Reiki master, and we were doing it online. And so it's just as potent when you are doing it distance as when you are in person. It's a little bit different of an experience, but it still works. And I was getting that really intense, just like flow, just like I was just talking about a second ago. And then she would get it right after. We were passing it back and forth. And it was so cool because I would be like, oh, here it comes. And then she's like, yep, I'm feeling it now too. Yeah. So you can do all of that. It's amazing. And then Kim, she was talking about the spinal flow. And we've probably all seen that on Facebook where they do that little thing and they're like, boop, and then somebody's spine is going like this. I'd say
I've never
that's
seen
it's really cool. It's really neat to be able to see. I don't know how that particularly works, but it's still movement of energy. So not necessarily the same as Reiki, but it's energetic work. So yeah, I've been very, very curious about that, like diving into that a little bit more. And my fascination with it is, can I make somebody's spine do that? I just want to see it. I want to see it like work and I want to experience it myself. Like I want somebody to do it on me. I think it would be really neat to experience that. So, yeah. Okay, maybe you should look into that. Give it a whirl. Um, let's see. Marie or Holly said, Marie, you need to do it. You would be fabulous. I love that. And Kim, I'll let you try it on me. Yeah. Sure. Anybody that wants to give it a go around if I ever learn about it, let's do it. Let's do it. Oh my gosh. And Elizabeth, I was going to talk to you about this. I was sitting here thinking because she's with me for a year or two and we're working on the Reiki stuff right now. And after we did her attunement, she said that she went outside and like the wind did something, right? And my first thought that came to my mind when you were talking about the wind hitting you and like you putting out your hands, and then all of a sudden it got really windy outside. I was like, "Ooh, she's an elemental witch." That was the first thing that came to my mind. I was like, "Ooh." I
That's
was
what
like,
I felt like. It was crazy.
yeah. I was like, I wonder if she can do that again. Like, go play with the wind a little bit.
I would try, but I always feel so weird. Like my neighbor's gonna be like, "What the hell is she doing out there?" Just standing out there with my hands out, like, yeah, that was nuts though. It felt like I got hit by a lightning bolt and the wind just kicked up and I'm like, "What's happening?" I felt so powerful. It was
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Let your neighbors think that you're weird. You're gonna be out there with your hands out. You guys hear that? I don't know what he's doing. Hold on. Good, I think, for a second. Yeah, I can't say anything. I was just doing the same thing like a couple of days ago. So, but I think like they're gonna be thinking differently if you're out there with your hands out and all of a sudden the storm comes rolling in. You think of like the movies and you got like lightning bolts happening. They're gonna be like, oh shit. I'm not gonna make her mad.
Or all the crows come calling in because
Oh
I've
my
always
God.
wanted to make friends with crows. And I'm like, I want to call all these crows in and see what they think. They'll really think I'm a weirdo then.
Wouldn't that be something though? Like if we could do that, like I think it would be just amazing. And it was probably AI, but I seen somebody that was manipulating wind one day. I'm sure it was AI, but I was like, that would be phenomenal to be able to do that. And I do honestly feel like in some way, shape, or form, it probably is possible to be able to do that. At least like it'll seem like a natural event because that's what all of this stuff is. It's not like the movies where, you have a twister right above your head. But I would say that you could probably be able to kick up wind. Maybe that's a little fetched, but just drop it. Go ahead, Marie.
The first spell I ever did, um, wrote it on paper. We were at a fire, and we threw the paper in, and all of a sudden the smoke just started spiraling like this. It was crazy. It was crazy.
How cool is that when you witness something like that? Everybody's like, oh, wow, that's so neat. It makes you want to do it more and more and more. Yeah. And you're talking about shamanism, right? So they look into the smoke fire. They see visions and all of that stuff. So like tapping in, oh no, you're a water sign. But like tapping into that little bit is just, I don't know. I think it's so cool how everybody's stuff can manifest with the elements just a little bit differently. Me, I'm a water sign, but keep me the hell away from water. I don't want it. I'll look at fire all day long, but don't put me near water, which I actually think even in my ruling number, we're supposed to like really enjoy water as a 7, but I do not. I don't. I don't know if any of you guys do or if you've ever tried like working with water stuff. I think it'd be really cool to hear if anything fun has ever happened with that. I don't know. It's in that podcast that they were talking about like doing Reiki and the energetic work and being able to hear the higher frequencies and stuff like that. You are literally a witch. And I will go back to it every single time saying that the witches way back then that they called witches were energetic workers and they were so tapped in that they probably could do all of this stuff. And then we just lost it along the way. Yeah. So good stuff with Reiki. Having somebody after I do a session walk out and it's not just that day, right? It continues. I've had people message me like a week later that something got dislodged and like their whole life is different now. Like they're thinking about all these different things and they're motivated to do like some of their dream stuff, right? That they've been thinking about. And it's really cool to see like, okay, just this one little memory that you've had lodged somewhere in your solar plexus, right? Busting that loose and getting that out of there can change so much. You can feel so much lighter. You can notice changes in your skin even, right? Because you're reducing your stress levels and getting a clearer picture of things that are coming through. So like when I go through and I do a Reiki session, those are the things that come up. A lot of times I'll pick up on a memory that somebody has and be like, okay, tell me about this memory. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, yep, I know exactly what you're talking about. And then I'll ask them if they're ready to let go of it because sometimes we are and sometimes we're not. And if they are, I kind of spiral it up again and pull it out of there and get it out. And they normally, almost every single person that I've had normally has felt at least something leaving, whether it be like that heat or they can at times. Sometimes I actually had somebody get really, well, not really nauseous, but a little bit nauseous, or they feel like a little tinge of like pain almost, but nothing like terrible where you're falling off the table, right? But yeah, you get a lot of stuff that happens with that. And yeah, go ahead, Marie.
I just want to know how many here are Reiki masters or are studying.
Studying.
Holly is. See, who do we all have on here? Janet's not on here today. Well, she just did my mentorship, but so I have Veronica is, Elizabeth is, and Holly is with me for a year doing this. We're doing like the whole shebang. Let's learn about the numerology. Let's do all of the things. And right, Elizabeth, we're learning about twerking too.
I commented on that one.
Yeah.
Yes, that was hilarious.
They do say that that is a really great way to move energy though, because you have all the energy stored in your hips, like women, that to just, go do 15 minutes of that and you should be feeling a whole lot better.
I wouldn't be walking. I'd back and say, what the heck are you doing?
Oh my gosh. Yep. Oh, it's supposed to be a really good workout too. You know, what did Kim say? My environment is still calm since you did Reiki, so it also clears the environment too. Yes, that is another thing I'll talk about. It's like you sage the hell out of my house. And let's see, Kim said it's totally possible too, and Holly said I love it. Um, in the succession of things that we were talking about. So yeah, Reiki. Closing portals is one of the things that you can use Reiki for. You sit and you Reiki it until it's gone. So one of the things about portals is you can take your pendulum and you walk through your house and it'll start going nuts if you have a portal in a specific spot. And so when you run Reiki, you have different, your different symbols for different air quotes potency, I guess I would say. And you sit and you run Reiki until it's closed, right? You only want to close the ones where people are coming in and not people that are going out or the energy that is coming in. You always want to keep the one out open because otherwise it's got nowhere to go. But you can use it for that. Clearing your space. That is a big one too. After a fight, if you have any fights, if you're walking into a room and you can feel that icky, energetic, yucky that is there, if, for instance, you have a new space like I do, you can sit in the middle of your floor and you can run Reiki until you feel like it's done. I do it in my kids' rooms often. You can do it distance too. You don't have to be there. And it does make a significant shift in your house, and you'll notice it with your family in particular because they're much calmer. Your house holds a lot of energy in the corners. Um, and there's a reason why our houses are square and not round, and why churches are domed. So when you have a domed space, or even like a teepee, for instance, if we have a dome, if you're in a cave, anything like that, the energy doesn't have a space to get stuck in. It recirculates, it moves, right? And so that's why churches are like that, because the energy doesn't get stuck. It's a constant recycling of stuff, even igloos, for instance, right? All of our ancestors were really tapped into this. And that's why if you look back, they had pyramids. They built their structures in accordance with that pyramid sort of energy, because the pyramids actually spiral the energy up from the ground into a spiral and move it up. All that energy pulls up. When you're in a dome, it just keeps like recirculating back and forth. It makes it, I guess the only word I'm thinking of right now is smooth, but it's a lot more powerful. Caves, for instance, that's why you always find a lot of the weird stuff in the writings on the caves, or, even depicted in the movies, people go into caves to do their magic work. That's where a lot of that came from, because they did. There was a reason for it because of the shape. And because you're in an all natural area that's probably loaded with crystals and water, can you imagine how much energy could be in a cave when you're doing work like that? Now you're bringing in like a little bit of fire and whatever else you're doing. It can be really intense. And they actually say that if you aren't really good at energetic work, sitting in like the pyramid sort of structure for more than 30 minutes can be too much. Going into the caves, it can actually be way too much to be doing anything like that. And I think that's a lot of the reason why when people go into caves, They can feel icky because they're overloaded with energy. You can get panic attacks. You can feel, I mean, just claustrophobia in general, but all of that stuff can be really intensified when you are in there. You're picking up on all of that energy, the residual energy, because who knows who did what, how many thousands of years ago, that stuff can get stuck in the crystals. It gets stuck in the water. It gets stuck in all of that stuff. So you're feeling all of it, all of it. Yeah. So when you're going through and you're cleaning your house, like clearing out your space, when you're saging, that's why they tell you to focus on your corners, especially in the upper parts of the room, because technically just regular energy spirals up from the ground. That's why our feet are on the ground and it comes up. Reiki comes through the crown and down. So you're kind of getting like this double whammy, but most of the ancient people, their teachings talk about the energy coming up, even the kundalini from your spine and the movement of your chakras. It's all from the root up. Yeah. So I know like in religion and stuff like that, we think of everything being above us and it coming down when a lot of it is below, beneath us, working its way up this way. So pay attention to your corners. You can, when I'm doing Reiki and I'm clearing a space, I will draw my symbols on the ceiling, on the floor, on the walls, anything that I feel has got like weird energy, like any objects, I'll send energy to that too. And it does significantly improve your space. So if you haven't had that done yet, have somebody do it, give it a whirl, or, even with your own energetics, even if you don't have Reiki, right? You're just tuned in. Just sit with the intention of surrounding your room with white light and clearing out the negative space. Some people like to open up their window to let the stuff outside, especially if you're saging, cracking the window, letting it go. Some people will keep their windows shut when they're saging for just a little bit to kind of smoke out the place and then open up their window and let everything out. But you always want to set that intention like bad energy is gone out of here. Yeah. And I just read a thing too that's super interesting is how much energy our shoes carry. Yeah, and I was just talking to Elizabeth about this, about how if you come into the office, I'm going to have everybody leave their shoes at the door just because like the Japanese culture and stuff like that with Reiki, or not even just with Reiki, but in general, they are no shoes in the house. And I think there's something to that other than it just, being cleaner, right? But think about our shoes and everything that we go through and step through and how many buildings we've been through. Our shoes can pick up on a lot of stuff. Yeah. And then you think you're putting it, they say not to buy secondhand shoes. Yeah. I mean, your energy is going into these shoes and coming back up, and they're like if you think about it, they're rubber. So I would say that the energy just stops there. We don't allow the energy to go down into the ground. And they say, I seen just this little post on Facebook about how if you step over or onto somebody's grave, you can bring their spirit with you. So you want to cleanse your shoes when you're done. I thought that was really interesting. I wonder if that's true or not. It's an actual sign for an actual cemetery, and I think it's somewhere in Salem. Marie.
I'll
Yeah.
probably just go lay on my dad's grave, get a hug. Oh my, she just give it to me, Dad. Come on.
Yeah. Just being able to feel that. I mean, my parents are still here, but I have a feeling, with my mother obviously being sick, I'd be doing that, be going sitting and visiting her for a while. Or she's gonna be sitting up on my shelf harassing me forever. Um, let's see. What did Kim say? It's to keep others' energy out of your home and parasites. Dang bugs. Well, there you go. See, I and I was like, okay, am I gonna be weird? Am I gonna be the weirdo if I tell people to take their shoes off when they come into the office? And I was like, you know what? I don't think I am. There's something with that. And anybody that has visited so far here has immediately taken their shoes off at the door. I haven't even said anything. They just take their shoes off and come in. Yeah. So it's curious. I'm gonna put a little thing out there. Yeah, go ahead, Marie.
Both my boys have been involved with Filipino women, and it's always take your shoes off once you get in there.
Yeah, I think there's a whole lot to that. Let's see, Sarah. One of my favorite spots is the cemetery by my mom. Yeah, yeah. Is there anybody else in here that just enjoys going to the cemetery in general? I'm one of them. I really like just sitting there and seeing what I get and picking up on things. And I love looking at the headstones, especially the older ones. I got to touch them. I don't know. I'm one of those people. Yeah. And it's peaceful out there too, right? And Sarah, like being by your mom, yeah, being able to just sit and be. I could see that. There's something peaceful about, you wouldn't think it would be, but something peaceful about the cemetery. And you can run Reiki out there too, right? Because you can run Reiki to those that have passed as well. Healing energy. Yeah. Let's see. You only go when you miss your dad or want to talk to him. Yeah. Marie, how do you feel about the cemeteries?
I was raised, and I don't know if this was a Catholic thing, but I have been going to funerals since I was a little kid. And with Catholics, you always, well, I think with everyone, you end up at the cemetery. I don't care one way or the other, you know. I don't get, it it really doesn't matter to me. I don't get spooked out or anything like that. But of course, I'm not going at night. You know, during a thunderstorm or anything. But
Okay, what did Kim say? Yep, the ornate headstones and crypts are beautiful. Cemeteries used to be almost like a pack where people would hang out and picnic or like a park. Yeah. Yeah, there's some people like me and my dad. This has been a thing with us since I was a little girl. We would go and find the oldest cemeteries wherever we were visiting, and we would go walk through them. I don't know why. It was just a fascinating sort of thing. Some people, like you, Marie, don't really, they're like, yeah, either way, right? There has always been something fascinating about the history of them. And somehow I always find the spot where all the babies' graves are every time. And one of the last times that I had went, I think it was me and Mike, we were just driving through and because I was picking my kid up, the cemetery is where his parade had ended. So I was picking him up and we were going through there and I told Mike, I'm like, stop the car, stop the car. And I got out and I was particularly drawn to this one headstone and this baby died on my birthday. It was November 7th. And I was like, holy crap. So I always get drawn to that spot for whatever reason. It's always the children. And even when Kim and I had gone on this trip, we went to Madison. And I was like, all right, we got to go to the cemetery. This is where I got stuck on a tree. I couldn't get back over on the trail. I had a white dress on. Here I am trying to climb trees and I get stuck. But we found in the certain area of the cemetery when the pan or epidemic or whatever started moving through when people were really sick, they would put everybody very spaced out, their headstones, and not in any particular order, but they were always really, really spaced out. And there was a lot of people that were nowhere near their families, just random things. And there was a little grouping of children that had died very, very young. And that was where I got drawn to. But like that whole area, there were nuns that were there. There were teachers that were there. You could tell just by like the ages and stuff like that, or they would say something that was on them. Just a random child, or there would be an entire, I guess some of the families were together, an entire family within days of each other. Their dates would be. So those are the places that I get drawn to when I go to those places, and like the history part of it. I love it. I love history. I love museums. I love all of that. And I think that a lot of that is still energetics. Getting drawn to go to like the thrift store, or like the antiques, or going to museums. Museums. Oh my God, I just want to touch all the things. Just touch and like let me feel it. Let me see what I get. I've always been like that since I was a kid. And so that's one of the things I think, like with Reiki practitioners or people that are really sensitive with energy, I have found that most people are really attracted to that stuff. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because it's so old and it's got so much history, like all those energetics are in things. And a lot of people are drawn to like him and her four squares, like the older houses that have all the charm and the character in them. Like they're fascinating. So, or like, ooh, this place is probably haunted. I wonder what happened here, right? Yeah. So that's all part of energy and Reiki work just expands. You become such a bigger channel because it's clearing out. When you get attuned, it clears out all of these blockages that you've had, and it actually helps your gifts open up because of that. Just listening to that podcast, she was talking about how some people don't have an inner dialogue. This is actually a recent discovery that people don't have this inner dialogue, but a lot of people that do have it are more in tune with their gifts. But you can actually bring it back by clearing out your chakras and stuff because you're blocked. So that's kind of what Reiki does, is open that stuff right back up for you so you can start hearing your inner voice again. Because I could see why people would smother it out. I mean, wonderful for them at times, right? Because mine don't shut off ever. It's just like, shut up. But how do people, like Mike, for instance, I know he has it, but he can shut it off. I call it going to the nothing box. How do people do that? I can't. No matter how hard I try, I cannot shut that off. So I think it's really interesting. But if you want to tap into that, Reiki is one of the ways to start clearing out all of those channels, opening that in, like opening that up, and then you can start, people start visualizing things better. People start hearing that voice better. And then you start hearing the thoughts that always feel like thoughts, right? But it's actually telepathy, or it is hearing voices from, spirit, your guides, somebody, like whatever information that is coming through for you. So it enhances everything. It's so neat. It's not just laying on a bed. It can be a whole damn experience, like a whole big healing experience if you are in it and you know what you're doing, and you let the other person know too, like, hey, relax, right? Let's relax. Let's just let it happen. If you fall asleep, you fall asleep, right? Um, Amazingly enough, when I'm doing Reiki and the type that I do, I think I've only had like 2 people fall asleep on the table, but they still leave really, really relaxed because something has shifted. So everybody's different. Every practitioner is different. Everybody experiences Reiki different and how they give it to people. And when you give Reiki, you receive Reiki. So it is addicting to have a Reiki practice because you feel really good. All right. Um, I love New Orleans. Oh my God, I want to go there so bad. Has anybody like experienced everything there? The cemetery in the Florida Keys, Sarah says. You guys, I'm going to have a whole list. Marie, can you do Reiki on yourself? Absolutely. That is actually the first thing that you learn, is how to do Reiki on yourself and to heal yourself. And as I was moving through, I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm not a drinker, but I did drink one night and I was really hungover, right? So I went outside on my deck and I did Reiki on myself for like a half hour, 45 minutes. I didn't have a hangover anymore. It was like a miraculous cure. Yeah, but yes, you can do Reiki on yourself. It is super important, like if you are a practitioner, to at least hold your hands over your heart, right? And give yourself a little bit that way. It's great when you're sick It's great for a lot of things when you're anxious, all of that. So it's definitely a tool. Every time, Marie, every time you get Reiki, yes, let's talk about that, Marie. So I always tell people that energy that you have been holding on to has got to come out somewhere. That's one of the things, right? The other thing with that is if your stomach is gurgling, you probably have a lot of energy that is stuck in your solar plexus because that's kind of where that area is. So having that in there, and your solar plexus is one of your intuition powerhouses as well. So that makes it comes together with the gurgling. And also when you are moving energy, a lot of people yawn. A lot of people, practitioners don't talk about it a whole lot, get gassy or they burp. So yeah, burping is a big one. Like you'll start burping over and over again. The yawning can get out of control. I don't know what he's doing. Elizabeth, this is what you get to look forward to later. Oh, but yeah, all of those things can happen. After a session, some people do get gastrointestinal things because, like I said, it's got to come out somewhere, right? Or you cry, or there's numerous things that can happen. So that's probably one of your signs, Marie, where when you are moving energy, it's going to be probably in your stomach. You'll know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Go ahead.
I've had a duodenal ulcer since 7th grade. Would that have anything to do with that?
Though,
Stomach ulcer?
yeah. Um, that pertains to your solar plexus as well. That is like it's your confidence and stuff too. It is where we harbor a lot of stress, right? From the root chakra, from your root chakra up to your solar plexus is where we harbor most of our stress. And those are the things that are kind of developing that we move through as we get older. And you said since you were 7th grade or
7th grade.
7th grade,
7th grade, yeah.
the number 7 is always like a huge, I always hear 7 when something big happens or something like bodily happens. But if you think back to 7th grade and what you're going through with your relationships and how you interact with other people, and that's when we really start learning how to deal with stress, right? We're starting to become aware of what the world actually is and all of the other things. So energy being stuck will cause an ulcer. The other thing I feel like with it is that when we have a ton of energy moving through us and we don't know how to transmute it properly, which was probably a lot of your thing, Marie, you probably had a lot of energy moving through you, like a ton. Everybody else's crap too, right? Um, you probably just weren't aware of how to get it out, just besides our own stuck energy.
Can a suppressed memory?
Mm-hmm. That's usually one of the number one things that gets stuck that causes body issues is bad memories, suppressed memories, because we suppress a lot of things, right? We don't know what's stuck there. And those are the things that like I pick up on. Like what happened when you were 7 in the water, like something, and they'll be like, oh yeah, yeah, right? We don't remember a lot of it, but yeah, suppressed memories are big, big things that get stored. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have an idea of what you think it is?
I know.
You
I
know?
know.
Yeah.
When I was in 4th grade, my brother raped me, and I blocked it out, and I never remembered it until I hit puberty.
Yeah. That can definitely, I'm sorry that happened to you. Yeah, that's a big, I mean, that's huge, right? Just thinking about suppressing it, for instance, and then waking back up to that and having that memory and then figuring out what to do with it. That's huge. That's some big, big things. I could see where that would cause a whole lot of bodily things, even just besides your stomach, right? Like a lot. That's really, really unfortunate for you. I'm sorry.
I dealt with it, and it's a lesson I've learned and what I use to help the people I work with now.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
a lot of my lessons are tools that I now use to help others who are trying to get through it. So that's the way I have to look at it.
Yeah. You know, they say for Scorpios, I listened to a podcast and this lady made me giggle because she was going through like your superpowers for each zodiac sign, and she got to Scorpios, and she said Scorpios, you're screwed because your trauma in your life is what fuels you and what helps you teach other people. And I was like, ain't that the damn truth? Because if something's not happening, it's like I'm bored. It's not, life's not moving fast enough, and then I get my inspirations when something really kind of shitty happens, and then I'm like online typing about it because I'm like, oh my gosh, somebody else is probably going through this. I feel really inspired right now. I want to help people, right? So I think that's true. All the signs have their own gifts, but she kind of said that Scorpios, this is just going to be your life. Deal with it. So yay for us, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Let's see, what did Holly say? The thing about Reiki is it is great for severe trauma like that, Marie. You don't have to talk about it. The energy knows where to go and how to move it out. Yes, yes. And that's one of the beautiful things is that you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. You know, you say something or whatever, you don't have to talk about it. It'll still do its thing.
Does it bring up the memories? Does it cause flashbacks and things?
Oh yeah, it can. You can even drop into past lives. I have. Yeah. It definitely can stir some things up. And that's kind of what it does because it wants to be addressed, right? Some of the stuff it just moves out. It knows it needs to just go, right? We're ready to let it go. It's just been sitting there, needed a little bit of a help, like needs a little help. But some of it will, you'll all of a sudden remember it and it will come up and it wants you to take a look at it so you can let it go. Um, and past life stuff does get stuck in you too. The first time that I had Reiki, I knew nothing about it, right? I barely knew anything. And I had a lady do it, one of my dad's friends do it for me. I'm on the table, and all of a sudden, I am very, very vividly seeing like an Indian tribe community getting raided. And I am a mom and I'm holding this baby and I'm screaming, do not hurt my baby. And I'm bawling on the table. I'm 18 years old and I'm bawling and I have no idea what is going on. And she is going, nothing bad is supposed to happen. She's panicking, right? She's like, nothing bad is supposed to happen. I don't know what's going on. That was intense. And I think that was something that I had stored because even to this day, I worry about something happening to my kids. And then I got told by the one of the ladies that does like the Akashic records and stuff like that, that I was a Native American in many, many, many past lives. So I was like, oh. So that's one of my huge, like big first memories. And I had no idea what it was. I was just like, what the hell just happened? Yeah, Marie.
I'm sorry. Please, people, jump in if you have other things to say. Um, Now, I obviously had to go to therapy over this
Right.
incident. Um, and I went literally for years. I remember we'd worked to a certain point. I blocked it out, I told you. And then I only remembered so much. We'd work on it, and then I'd have another memory, and we'd have to deal with that, and so on and so forth. With Reiki, is it that I mean, would it take several stages to totally release it, or would it just release it that one time? And let me tell you something else before you answer that.
Okay.
Okay. So my first attempt, um, I told you I was in shamanism, and they have something that's called a soul retrieval.
Mm-hmm.
And they say when something traumatic happens to you, a piece of your soul breaks off and is there. So a shaman will go back to that incident and retrieve the soul for you. But you have to be ready because it brings back everything, you know. So, and I think that's the difference between like I went to a shaman and she refused to do it. Um, so it was, but with therapy, it took several, you know. So how's it work with Reiki?
So everybody is different. In your situation, particularly, I'd be going back in your numerology too. Like, let's talk about what's going on in that time. Let's talk about what you learned from it, stuff like that. Because I think when we're educated around it and what is going on in our chart and why, that helps us move through it that much faster. And then I would jump into the Reiki, and the Reiki will let you let go of as much as you want to let go of, right?
Mm.
Intelligent. So everybody is different. I have worked with people that have had cancer, and I've picked up a lot of memories and stuff that they had. And all of a sudden they just let it all go and they feel really good. I'm not saying that I cure the cancer or anything like that, right? But there's a huge shift because they were harboring this thing. And I have found that your numerology plays into that so, so much. From somebody that has gone to therapy myself for years and years and years, what I have found is they give you the tools to deal with the stuff, right? We're always getting tools. This is how you deal
Mhm.
with it. Give that intrusive thought a pink balloon. Go, do the muscle relaxation technique, stuff like that. My brain has to understand why it happened. Give me the information, right? Why did this happen to me? And so when I'm doing the Reiki and the numerology together, that is what helped me release like so much stuff. I understand it now. This is what I was learning from it. This is how I'm applying it to my life now. And I know that I can let this go. And then I do the Reiki and I even do it on myself when I'm working through something. And it helps just move all of that crap out of there. So you're kind of getting like this double whammy, right? Because therapy is great. I feel like therapy is amazing. Everybody, we need it, right? We can't just quit going to therapy, but um, I think paired with doing Reiki and like numerology and the like more holistic stuff and getting some answers behind it really builds upon that foundation that therapy is giving you. And it can really help move a lot of stuff out. It's actually really incredible. But we have to be able to look at it, right? And nothing is going to come up unless we are ready to look at it. So what comes up in the moment is what you need, right? You can set the intention to go back and find some sort of repressed memory, but you don't necessarily know what you're going to get. If you already know you have something that you want to move through and work through, the energy will move what it needs to or what is ready. So some people miraculous one session, some people have, a few, right? It's all dependent on the person, just like going to therapy. Sometimes you're like, okay, great, you gave me the tools, I'm good to go. Other times, like me, you're in it for years. Let me
I
take years so
understand
I
that.
can complain.
I identify with that.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's pairing everything together kind of gives you're hitting everything from every aspect. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, it all comes together and it's very, very helpful. Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was very mumuch into my religious part, so I would never think of going anywhere else.
Right.
I decided because I kept blocking and blocking. As a teacher, when the AIDS epidemic happened, yes, I'm that old, people. Um, I had to teach good touch, bad touch.
Mhm.
And when I was teaching that, all these memories started flooding back. So I would have never thought. In fact, I don't even know if Reiki was a thing back then. How long have people been doing Reiki out loud and proud? you know. So yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's been underground until like, the last however many years, but it's been recently that it has become like this big booming thing. For the most part, if you did any of that, you were ostracized or whatever you want to call it. You were a weirdo. And that I feel like I'm not bashing religion or anything like that, but some of the things that we get taught in organized religion is that if we have these thoughts that are happening, or if we have said things that happen to us, we should block it out because it's a sin. Or if you're continuously, habitually looking at it, there's something wrong with you, right? You shouldn't, you're a holy person. You are supposed to be pure, blah, blah, blah. So even if it's not intentional, you tend to feel a lot of shame around the things that happen to you. And I think for the spiritual part of it, like on my end, is nobody judges you. Not a single soul judges you for anything that you've been through, right? And then you get, here's why. Even though the whole situation was absolutely horrible, let's take a look at the why behind it and why you shouldn't have shame. Yeah. And let's work on some forgiveness and, whatever else is on the agenda. But I don't feel like trauma should have any sort of shame around it at all. I think it's here for a reason.
No.
You're looking at it.
That kind of trauma, there's always shame around it.
Well,
Especially
absolutely,
when you're
right?
talking family.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
You're
know why it happened, and so I got my lessons from it. And
right. Yeah. Yeah, most traumas does have yours, obviously. I mean, something like that, you're gonna just, it's gonna be there. But I think a lot of our trauma does have a lot of shame around it.
mhm.
Yeah, we hold a lot of that. And I think shame is probably one of the big energetic things that we tend to hold on to a lot and why we hide all of those emotions and stuff like that. And I recommend therapy to everybody I see. Don't be afraid to go talk to somebody, even if you're just going to complain, right? They're not going to look at you any which way. They're not judging you. They're trying to help you. So if you need therapy, just go. There's nothing shameful about going, right? It's so much better than talking to like your mom or that already has like an idea about it or your best friend or, whatever. It's different and it's helpful and it's useful. They're not going to lock you away.
And you have to, and if the first one doesn't work out, look for another.
Yes.
Because I was seeing a counselor who tried to force me to go to an incest group. I had
Oh,
no interest,
right.
and I never went back.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Mm-mm.
No. You
Nope.
gotta have somebody that you resonate with.
Uh-uh. So if at first you don't find the right one, look until you find one that connects to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like as one of the last things for our session today is I don't think people know that this is available. So if you have postpartum depression, if you are in a crisis, if you are feeling like there is no help for me, or you're just really, really low, they actually have, because I know how it is going through the mental health care system and waiting months and months and months to see somebody and fighting, right? To just basically stay alive and in life. They have clinics, and we actually have one here in Neenah that you can just walk in. There is an on-staff counselor. They get you everything that you need immediately, and it's not in a way of trying to lock you up in your cuckoo or anything like that. They put you in contact with who you need immediately right away, so you have a team. And they did that for me after I had the twins because I had postpartum really bad. And she's like, if you just go the normal route, it's gonna be months, right? You're gonna be waiting and dealing with this for months. Go to this clinic and go get some help, especially with postpartum and like big traumas and stuff like that if you're feeling that low. Now, for the people that are just having, like little issues or whatever, don't clog up the system, right? But if you're feeling really, really crappy and you're in that space, go there. They will help you. The places are quiet. Nobody there. Everybody's there for the same reason, right? Everybody, it's a good place. It's a good thing to really do. So if you're feeling like that, go see if you can find one in your area because it's great. It's wonderful. You don't have to go through the hoops, which is what everybody in mental health tends to go through. Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Right. And stuff that would have took me over a year to get figured out just by trying medications and trying to find my person and all that stuff. They had me back on medications and in a like regimen and speaking to a counselor, and I was able to do it all at home on my computer, right? Because I wasn't good enough to like make it out and do all the stuff. They had everything that I needed, and I was feeling so much better within like 2 months. 2 months compared to having to just hang on by a thread for however long. Yeah. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, highly, highly recommend if you're in a really bad spot. Because although, like, even with anxiety, anxiety won't kill you, right? But it's probably one of the worst experiences thinking you're dying. And they're just like, well, you're not dead, so we're just gonna ignore it and you're fine. You just need to sit and breathe. I get what it feels like to have these panic attacks where you're crawling on the floor thinking this is it for me. I'm having a heart attack, whatever it is. I get it. Yeah. And I still get them. I still get them because it's just in my brain. It's part of me. So yeah, there's help. Yeah. So I'm going to leave us with that for
I'm
today.
sorry for overtaking this. I hope I didn't stop anyone else from talking.
No, I love it, Marie, because you keep the conversation going, and this is what the rabbit hole is about. We're gonna start with something, and we're gonna go probably way over in left field, but it's what we need to talk about. So I love it. Keep going with that. It's great. Yeah, Holly, this was great. Yeah, I love it. You never know where we're gonna go. Yeah. So. All right, ladies, I will let you all enjoy the rest of your Sunday. For those of you that I am seeing later today here, I will see you later today, and I will talk to everyone later.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome, Holly. Bye, guys.
Bye.